Welcome back to the podcast. In this episode, this is going to be the second installment of the Restore podcast that I'm going to put here on the Pre-Spot Care podcast. So this is a conversation with Mike Donal, who has had an amazing life, a truly inspirational character, but from the depths of drug use, near suicide attempts, self-harming, alcoholism and tattoos and steroid abuse, to really turning his life around to being both an amazing story and an amazing inspirational story as well. But this is going to be the second of three episodes I publish here on the Pre-Spot Care podcast. My cadence is very different, so the release schedule is about once a month on Restore. But yeah, please do be aware that there's only going to be one more of these published on the Pre-Spot Care podcast next month. And this is a really fascinating story of Mike's. I'll formally introduce it within the episode, but just to be aware and give you a trigger warning, Mike does speak candidly about self-harm and indeed drug use within, and indeed a suicide attempt within the episode. So there'll only be one more episode of Restore published on the Pre-Spot Care podcast next month, but please do enjoy this, and if you like the content, please do just search for Restore with Owen Walker and you'll find 77 episodes, I believe, over on Restore with myself. Alright, do enjoy. Welcome to the Restore podcast with me, Wayne Walker. In this episode, I'm going to be speaking with Mike Donal. We're going to unpack his journey through growing up, dropping out of school, drug use, mental health, self-harm, suicide attempts, steroid use, sex, mental health, and all before 21 years old. So we're also going to look at Mike's journey beyond 21. We're going to look at his life through the gym, through alcohol, through relationships, tattoos, steroids, but also the 180-degree turn to cleaning everything up and indeed influencing others for the better, as well as his current revelations on health, faith, and a balanced mindset. Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Mike, I just wondered if we could just start with, for listeners, just contextualize your home life, just growing up.
Well, my home life growing up would have been, I was constantly had this ball of energy, this bundle of energy, of what can I get up to, what can I do next, what can I do, who can I annoy, who's going to chase me, and you're talking from a very, 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 very early age. So, like toddler age, like right up. So then obviously that led me into being a bit of a bad lad around the estate. Nothing too wild and crazy, but then that obviously primary school, so even through primary school, even I noticed it now more being older, didn't notice it at the time, just how much energy that I had inside of me with zero direction. The only direction it was going was chaos and mayhem. That was the only way it was going. Because it was who gonna annoy, who gonna wind up. I know what I'll do. I'll annoy the teacher to the point where she absolutely explodes. Explodes, So through primary school, you can imagine me having that sort of feeling of annoyance. And then as I've got older, again, I realized that, and now I feel sorry for the teacher because how would you have dealt with me in class? How would you have dealt with the what? Like, so to put it in like a scale, if for anybody watching, imagine the class clown and times him by 100, and that's what I was like in school. So my educational standpoint, wasn't very, very good because I was given through primary school whatever would have kept my attention. And again, I felt sorry for the teachers because they had another 30 children to deal with, you know. So I would have been given dot dot dots, coloring ins, really anything that kept my attention, drawings, whatever it was. Um, and that was what my life was like kind of through primary school. And even then that didn't it wasn't just in primary school, the teachers in school in general, they may as well have spoken another language. Nothing they said held my attention.
Yeah.
But that was so, and then that wasn't just through school. That was out of school, where I was getting chases. I was lighting wind bushes on fire and pinging stones at cars, just doing anything to cause an absolute disturbance, you know. But for me, it was fun and games, you know, because I was doing whatever I could that held my attention. And I think the only thing that held my attention was trying to grab everybody else's attention in a negative way.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so that obviously would have been my primary school. So when it came up to doing your 11 plus or anything like that, the teachers had just advised that there was absolutely no point in me doing anything like that.
Yeah. So Mike, at that time, what was going on at home? Was there any applied discipline, from your mother or father, or how did your home life look at that point?
See, this is the thing, you know, we would have been very disciplined, you know, by mother and father. You know, my father was ex-services, ex-army. He was stationed over here in the Troubles, met my mum, so on and so forth. So when we were at home, it was very strict, very regimented. If we wanted anything, we had to work for it. You know, Hoover, cleaning, dishes, you know, all that sort of stuff. So it wasn't like, you know, and even then, it just shows you. It just came to me now. You know, like I was still like that at home, and we would have got smacked and all, and it didn't phase me. You know, like don't get me wrong, I didn't enjoy it. You know, but I'm still doing it again 5 minutes later. You know, so as per parental upbringing, and you couldn't fault them. You know, yes, it was strict, but you know, clearly I needed it and didn't listen to it. Do you know what I mean? So, um, you know, so and I'll highlight that. I'll highlight this now because obviously we've covered kind of primary school age. Coming into my teens of high school age was when the drugs and drink use started, because coming up into those years, that went, what would I do next? It turned into, what can I take next? What can I take? What can I do? What can I say? You know, to change, to do whatever I needed to do to change that feeling of no direction or going in all directions at the same time. So I sorry, as I was saying there, my parents didn't drink, didn't take drugs. Do you know what I mean? And we were disciplined, and you know, so it wasn't like we were just, they were kind of haywire themselves. They drank, they took drugs. You know, we were, you know, if anything, they were role models. You know, for what you would look up to be. You know, didn't drink, didn't take drugs, hardworking, so on and so forth. You know, but I went the opposite direction. So it did. So that'll take me into 13. I was 13 or 14 when I started smoking dope. You know, my friends were smoking dope, and I tried it. Um, and even then, the second that I smoked, I think my friend made me. It was a waterfall or a bucket or something like that. That a water made the cannabis burn as it went out or something like that. So anyway, I did one of those things, and I was sitting in a room full of my mates. Nobody spoke a word, and inside of my head, it was going, they're all talking about you. They're all laughing at you. So that was my first, and I remember it vividly. That was my first experience in taking drugs. And it still had that negative impact in my mind, but it didn't stop me taking them. So the few experiences that I had smoking dope, so I would say it would have been between the ages of 12, high school age 12 to 14. And then between the ages of 14 to 15 was when I went from dope for the few times I did try it to ecstasy. Um, Now that was heavy drug use, you know. So from the ages of 14, 15 to 20, you know, and it got to the stage where I was taking ecstasy 10 at once just to get a hit, you know, 10s at once just to get a
Yeah.
hit,
That's
you know.
crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's exactly it, you know. So, but obviously in that time frame, you know, and the problem is when you have that negative, nagging sort of voice in your head of where am I going, what am I doing, what am I up to, why are you doing that, you know. So that was constantly going on in my head. So the thing is, when you take drugs, that dampened down, and you just rolled about the floor like an idiot. You know, well, you would do taking three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10s at once. Do you know what I mean? But the thing was with my estate back then, there was a drug dealer in every other block, and I and somebody in my party group had a flat in between every other block. So we literally went from block to block. You know, so we would have started taking drugs on Friday and finished on Wednesday. So you're talking a lot of E's being taken. So if you could think of how quickly you would build up to taking the tolerance of taking tennies at once. If you're taking them Friday to Wednesday, or Tuesday at least, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
And
you
also,
know,
Mike, and were you also drinking at this? Was alcohol sort of coming into the picture at this time?
Beforehand I didn't really drink.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't drink much. I drank, I think, a handful of times. I had one sort of drunken bad experience, and that put me off.
Yeah.
So what I did was ate all these going and
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
drink.
Okay. Okay.
You know what I mean? So where's the censor? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And didn't really drink. People are like, oh, you don't drink, you're doing well. As you've just swallowed five E's. Do you know what I mean? So obviously then a lot of mental health problems started. So the 14, 15, 16, 17. When you're taking all these uppers, and what goes up must come down. Now the thing is, when you have that kind of like, where am I going? What am I doing? And it wasn't always like, let's get up to mischief. On the other side of that coin, when you did do something wrong or bad, the brain kind of split into these, we'll say, two different sort of personalities, but the same personality. One's going, why do you keep doing these things? You shouldn't be doing them. You can't do it. And then the other side of you was arguing with it, going, well, why wouldn't I do it? What else will I do? I'll go and do something else. So um, I obviously knew the difference between right and wrong and the right direction to take, but I always picked the wrong direction. I always did. So even though those early teen years to the late teen years, there's a lot of drug use and then the calm downs. So as I was saying about that voice, that conversation, that talking in your head, it was magnified by 100 when you were coming off ease. And the thing
And
was, as that built up, so I was taking ecstasy to escape those feelings, those thoughts, those that kind of those self-destructive directions that I was headed in. Um, and then on the come down, it was magnified by 20. A minimum, it's hard to even explain how it was magnified. It was just constant. What are you doing? Where are you going? What are we doing? Where are we going? What are you doing? Where are you going? But there was like five different. It was the same. It was me talking to myself, but it was like five different conversations going on at once. So the thing was with that, the pressure built up and built up and built up and built up, so that if there wasn't access to drugs, it was self harm. And I realized then that self harm was a massive release of pressure. So, and then what I realized I was doing was I was swapping one pain for another. I was literally swapping pain. So the thing would have been, if I wasn't high on anything, they would have been superficial. Like with a big razor or something like that, something that you couldn't really do a lot of damage with. If I was high, it was a Stanley knife. So it shows you the difference between, now, not that any of it would have been rational thinking, but the difference of not being on drugs and being on drugs. It was magnified. Your actions were magnified. You know, um, so obviously that then you still drink. You sorry, so then drink them into the picture late sort of teens. Um, so that I wasn't taking drugs all the time, but then you just end up mixing the two of them. Um, and then obviously the pressures of the mental health problems were magnified again after all that. So you're talking self-harming, suicide attempts, and you're literally talking the self-harming with Stanley knives, self-harming razor blades, until the day where it got too much, and I hung myself. You
gosh,
know, yeah, so I think it was 19 at the time. And obviously I survived the suicide because I'm here to speak to you about it. But then it was successful because I hung myself. Whoever found me, I don't know. I literally woke up, so the hospital would be probably a 5 mile drive. Obviously, it'd be quicker in an ambulance, stuff like that. But I was resuscitated, fortunately, obviously. Um, and woke up in the Royal, So from my house to the Royal, you know. Um, and in doing that, I realized that wasn't the answer because it was very, 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 very scary. I couldn't sleep for months after it. Whenever I closed my eyes to fall asleep, it was like stepping off that stool and hanging myself again because of that darkness,
So
you know?
I was gonna ask about that. That sounds like a seminal event, like a rock bottom event, Mike. You hit that rock bottom. You have a suicide attempt, which is almost semi-successful, to be honest. But
Yeah.
so you come through that, and what replaces? So did you then sort of really stop drinking, stop drugs? Did the gym start coming in at that time? What did you replace some of
Right.
these pain mechanisms with?
Well, we're coming into late teens, early 20s now. So after the suicide attempt, I was sectioned in Knockbracken, which is a mental health hospital
Yeah.
in Belfast. I was sectioned in there for 4 to 5 months, so I was. But being in there, it wouldn't leave. I was still self harming. I mean, like, it was even a plastic spoon. I was breaking the plastic spoon so that I could self harm. You know, but I would never have tried to commit suicide again. Never. And I always believe to this day, like I know a lot of friends that have passed because they continued the lifestyle and they've killed themselves, and it's been drink related, it's been drug related. They've been high, they've been drunk. And I just wish people like that could have the second chance that I had because they would realize that there's no coming back from it. It is a massive mistake, like that you literally can't come back from. So anyway, so we'll get back to so I was sectioned for 4 to 5 months in Knockbracken, but even then coming out of Knockbracken, 21, 22, but then I started drinking. I'm not taking drugs no more. They're no good. So I was drinking, self harming, taking drugs occasionally. Um, so I was, and then that again for it was another 3, 4 years of doing that. So you're talking 11, 12 years of hard drug use and drink. So my mental health was just in the toilet. And again, I was always at odds with myself because I knew the right path to go down, but I always chose the wrong one. I always went, well, sure, I'll just take two more E's, I'll just have that one more pint and then I'll go home. But that one more pint's never one more pint. It's that one more pint is the one bad decision that leads you on to the next 10 pints, and then the next 10 pints lead into taking drugs because you're starting to get tired. Everybody's still out partying, So then what actually happened was, so my life was still pretty much the same, with drink, drugs, self-harming, but the suicide attempts obviously weren't there. So my dad asked me one time to come to the gym. So I was about 23, between 20, near 20 years now, 23. So I was about 23 at the time. My dad asked me to come to the gym. And I was like, oh, I don't know, I wouldn't know what to do. And he says, just come with me one day. And I went one day and I couldn't even scratch the back of my head. My chest was sore, my arms were sore, my butt was sore, my calves were sore, and I was like, wow, that's great. Look at how much pain I'm in. So then I went one day a week for about a month or so, or for about a month, we'll say, but still out doing the other things 5 days out of the week. Then it was like, oh, I'll train another day. So we're training 2 days out of the week, still doing the other. And it was like, oh, I'll train 3 days a week. And then I learned that I would never self harm over my tattoos. Okay. And because the tattoos represented scar tissue to me, then I was like, that area is marked, that area is damaged, that's mine now. And obviously, then with the gym, you're constantly in pain. You're constantly in pain. So what I did there then was I turned my basically addictive personality into two other areas that were still covering the same things that I needed covered, but on the outside there was a different outcome. There's just you're jacked and covered in tattoos, not scars. So yes, so then I started doing that. So I'm now I'm now 40, and it's took me like 17 years to be completely tattooed from head to toe. Um, and I'm in reasonable shape. But sorry, so then so then I trained for a couple of years naturally, about 6, 7, 8 years naturally, because that was my fix, and it was like I was training twice a day. I was running to the gym. I just found another avenue to vent. The frustration of what direction are you going in. What that self-destructive pattern was then in turned internally, and I was self-destructing myself, but externally no one knew a thing. Everyone just seen this guy covered in tattoos, bubbling with confidence, that didn't care, genuinely didn't care. Um, so a couple of years, was going well, and then it turned out it wasn't enough. My friends that I was training with said, "Oh, you should try some of this." It was anabolic steroids. So I started with D-ball, and again, the one a day turns into five a day turns into 3 a day, and 2 mil a week. 2 mil a week turns into 6 mil a week, and 50 milligram of Anavar a day. So the problem is with doing all that on the exterior, you look great. The byproduct of self-destruction in the gym environment is externally, it looks good, but internally I was at war. I was still at war with myself. I was still, all I wanted to do was destroy myself. And when I walked into the gym, I would have looked at myself and I went, "I'm gonna flip and ruin you." But I would have said a swear word. I don't swear as much as I used to now. And that's how I was. It was just destruction, self-destruction, self-destruction, self-destruction. And that's so that again, this takes me up into my 30s. So 30, and then I met. So as per, I mean, coming across now, and I didn't realize this at the time, but when you're very selfish, when you're very self-destructive, when you're, anything like any relationships that I'd have been in, if they'd have said anything to me that I didn't like, I was away. I was gone. There wasn't even an argument. There wasn't even a discussion. I just left and didn't care. You know. Um. So obviously in in the time frame that I spoke about, the amount of relationships started and ended, and it was all obviously. Um. I was clearly no saint, but at the time I didn't think there was anything wrong. At the time I was going, I'm God's gift. These women should be lucky to have me because I wasn't a horrible person. But what I didn't realize was all my actions weren't good. There wasn't one thing done in a positive light. It was all for self-hatred. It was all for self-destruction. So everything that I did had this toxicity about it that was just pure toxic. And it was pure toxic because it was all for selfish reasons. You know, um, so that's taken me up into my 30s. And then I met my partner now, Dion. And like I've said, like how I don't know, like we're together 9 years, and how she stuck me for the past eight is absolutely beyond me.
But it sounds,
Because
Mike, like she was one of these circuit breakers, really, and a real blessing to you that she kind of really, not only just would forgive, but would keep continually kind of almost just counterbalance you, bring you down, and bring and start to because in other interviews I've heard you speak about, just you'd start to question why is she loving? Why does she love me? Why is she continually reaching towards me? And so it was, yeah. Could you speak to that and that kind of revelation?
yeah, well, I mean, like as per where Dion's concerned, again, I only now realizing walking with the Lord a year how selfish, self-destructive, and toxic that I was, because I knew inside of me that I loved Dion with all my heart. Like I met Dion when I was in third year at school, and I always fancied her in school, so it was like my dream girl. So imagine in your early 30s, you're now starting to go out with the girl that you fancied for the past 25 years. Do you know what I mean? So, and Dion just, she just has such a beautiful heart, like, she really, 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 really does. Um, and how she's, I honestly feel, and I say this with, how she put up with me treating her like, with me being an absolute scumbag is ridiculous. But sorry, I'll get on to what I was saying there. So, I mean, like, everything that I did, I knew was wrong, but I couldn't change it. And I knew one thing, that I loved her with all my heart, and I wanted and tried to be the best man that I could be for her, and then also for my children as well. But what I realized was, if you're selfish, you're putting, and you should know this, but it took me 40 years to figure it. That didn't The Lord had to show me it, so He did. But you know, how could I tell Dion that I loved her and wanted to be everything that she could possibly be, when you're out taking drugs and steroids and the gym comes before everything? Do you know what I mean? And it's the same with my children and all. But like I was saying, that Dion just has this, she just has this light about her. She really, really, really does. Like, her heart's always open, and um, she must have seen a glimpse of the man, the man that I could have been, because I always aimed to try to be the man that I am now, but I just couldn't get there. And then I realized I couldn't get there because of the never ending stream of selfish, toxic, bad decisions that I consistently made.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
again,
Yeah.
yeah, and again, it's like, I want to be the best partner to Dion, but as soon as Dion spoke, I'm away on the drink. And would have been something silly, like, would you like my shoes? Yeah. Fourth time. What do you think, my shoes? I've told you 4 times now. I'm away. And that's how silly it would have been.
Yeah.
But because, sorry, so I've missed out a bit there. So, but because I was either hungover on a come down, or I was juiced up in steroids. See, the thing is with steroids, and I'm not sure if everybody's took drugs, or they've drank. So drugs, your head's amplified. For me to describe it, the voices are like whoom, 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 in and out, in and out, in and out. Um, Steroids magnify whatever way you think and the person you are by 5. So if you're prone to talking inside your head, if you're a selfish person, it amplifies that by 5.
By
It really,
five.
really does. Like, so
Yeah.
yes, it might amplify the exterior by 5. And again, something so horrible can look so good. Internally, the opposite. So it is.
So yeah, absolutely, Mike, and like you said, it's kind of you're swapping one drug for another, and also like you said, just there's no baseline of consistency in mental health, because it's you either up, down, or you it's this amplified kind of situation with the steroids. And so, could you speak to what happens as far as, because kids start to come along, and does there start to become some sense of sort of stability and kind of baseline of normality with kids, or is it still quite chaotic, or how is it working out?
Well, with the kids coming along, again, what I tried to be was the man that I am now.
Yeah.
But the problem is when your actions conflict with what you're trying to be in your mind. So basically, your bad decisions, you're still at that kind of conflict in your mind. And like, as every father, or most dads, want to be a role model to your children. There's no if buts maybes about it. I look at my dad and go, now, and I'm like, I want to be that. I want to be a reflection of my father, for my daughter look up to and go, that's how a man treated my mummy. That's how I should be treated. And my son to go, this is how my dad acts as a man. This is how he treats my mother. This is how he's treated us growing up. I want to admit that. But again, what they didn't know was, when your actions. So yes, I took them everywhere. So yes, I took them to the park. But you're taking them to the park and you're hungover. You take them to the park and you've took drugs. You take them to the park and you're jacked up on steroids and you've zero patience. Do you know what I mean? So again, externally, people are seeing you out and about with your kids all the time, but the kids are actually dealing with the actions that you've decided to take, of having no patience. So again, there's another thing with steroids. You have no patience. I don't care. Anybody that takes steroids says they're fine on them. They're lying. They're lying. They're not.
It's just absolutely, like you said, it kind of not only accentuates probably the feelings of selfishness, but also, like you said, it kind of it absolutely messes with your internal sort of narrative, your internal self-talk.
Okay.
And yeah, yeah. So as things are progressing, Mike, like you said, there's this kind of relationship with pain, which is quite destructive, and actually, like you said, there's this really focus on swapping one pain for another pain, but it's all quite painful. As you're coming along, so you've got Amber and Ezra, your
Yeah.
children, which are starting to sort of grow up, and you're kind of start stewarding their lives as a father. What was the precursor one of the most seminal moments in your life? This kind of fundamental change. What started to happen, or indeed, what was
So what?
Amber
what
talking
so what?
about?
So what had happened was, and this was actually shown to me in prayer, was, and this is why I kept using the word toxicity and toxic, is because when your mind is at war with itself, and even if you're putting a brave face on, and you're going, yes, okay, that toxicity oozes out of your pores. It's like if you walk into a house and two people have been arguing, but you didn't hear them arguing, you feel that. You feel that tension in the air. So that's what I know now that admitted off me. Now it didn't admit off me out in the streets because everyone would have went, "Oh, he's a lovely guy," because I stopped and spoke to absolutely everybody. But when I came home, like, don't get me wrong, I wasn't coming home and banging and slamming, but the mask came off, the smile went away. The internal thoughts of going, "Why do you do this? Why do you torture yourself? Why this, why that?" So Amber's like her mum, big heart, big, 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 big heart, very, very sensitive too, as well, to other people's feelings. So Amber always asked me, "Daddy, are you okay?" From a young age, from 3 and 4, "Daddy, are you okay?" Always ask me, like, and I'd be walking through the living room, "Daddy, are you okay?" You know, and I'm like, "Yes, darling, I'm fine." And then, like, you're talking a couple of times out of the day. So then what happened was Amber turned around to me and says, "Daddy, could we go to church?" And I went, I got a mouthful of tea or something. What? What? I'm a Viking. I don't go to church. People from church run away from me. I'm a Viking. Um, and so I says, "No, Amber, love, your mummy will take you to church. She'd love to take you to church." "No, Daddy, I want you to take me to church." I was like, "Right, Amber, no, I'm not going to church." And then so obviously she says, your Granny Pat, she loves her Granny Pat. Her Granny Pat is her favorite. Like, Granny Pat will take you to church. Ask Granny Pat, she'll definitely take you. "No, Daddy, I want you to take me." So the Lord knew, he knew no matter what, I would do anything for my children. Whatever they want to do, go to Funky Monkeys dressed as furries or Ninja Turtles out in the street, I would do it. Do you know what I mean? So upon her, I think it took her about a month. So I decided to go to church, and I even before walking into through the church doors, I was like, "I'm gonna catch fire. I'm gonna disintegrate into dust." I'm a Viking. I don't go to church. So even as soon as I walked into church, a lady Linda came up to say hello, and I literally put my hand out and says, "Don't speak to me. I'm just gonna sit up the back. I'm here for my daughter." I did nothing. It wasn't as blunt as that now, but it was basically like that. So, like, I'm 6'2", 16 and a half stone. Linda's like 4 foot. She's probably not. She's 5 foot. And I literally went, "No, I'm going to sit at the back. I'm here for my daughter. That's it." So, so again, yeah. So it was my first experience in church, and as the weeks went on, I was sitting there going, I added it all up and I went, "I've lost like 12 hours of my life. I've literally, how am I getting these 12 hours back?" or you better be grateful for this, so to speak. And then as I was sitting there and I was listening and I was playing with my phone and half listening, and then Gemma Minister said, "Christ is for everyone," you know, um, or the faith is for everyone. It was something along those lines, and my ears just picked up, and I looked up and went, "Did he mean me?" You know, and I was like, "Well, maybe he did. Is Jesus for everyone?" You know, um. So then, and going, and all the while, and it just shows you, he was at work anyway because I drank every night. I drank every single night, 3, 4 beers, and it was purely the. I said it was to de-stress, but it was to run away. Do you know what I mean? And I got drunk twice a week. I got drunk every Thursday night, and I got drunk every Saturday night. And you're not so you're talking 18 and 18 boxes of beer and a bottle of rum a week. That was normal. That was normal.
That's
That's how much.
intense, Mike. That's intense. I mean, I would not be standing after 18 bottles of beer and a bottle of rum.
you
Golly.
know. So well, that's how much I drank a week. So 30, what's 18, 18, 36. So 36 cans of beer a week and a bottle of rum
It's
and
big going.
2 liters of Coke Zero mixed with the rum. Do you know what I mean? So even in attending church, and I smoked, and I was still occasionally taking drugs, and I was taking steroids. So what happened was, as I was attending church that month, I got friendly with some of the lads. Some of the lads were interested in training, and I always trained by myself because my fuel was hatred. I always trained by myself. I was like, look at that mirror, pick something you don't like and destroy it. Hate what you see in the mirror. Hate is your fuel. So as I was attending for the month, I went and started training with some of the lads from church. I went, do I need to drink every night? No, I don't. So the beers went every night. Still drinking a Thursday and a Saturday. Then I went, do I need to drink on a Thursday? I don't like, so I start drinking on a Thursday. Then I was like, let none of these lads smoke either. So I'll stop smoking. Then I went, nobody swears. Like we're all training together, and like the gym environment is like F blinding, move your butt, you know. And I went, nobody swears. Like they're doing sets and going, oh flip, that was tough, and I'm spitting on the floor and all rah. So then the swearing. So, like even at the time, all these lads, all these strong Christian men are just admitting these reflections of Jesus to me that I didn't even know. So even when it came up to 3 months of attending church and I was invited to Alpha, I didn't realize at the time, I just thought I was just doing well. The Lord was at work there, just chipping things away. So then I was invited to Alpha. And then week 3 of Alpha, the Lord came into my life with a great big bang. So he did.
Yeah, so at the time, your wife is seeing this fundamental change, but slowly but surely, like you said, it's chipping away initially, and that things are starting to fall off you, the drink, the drugs, the swearing. So what was this week 3 encounter? What just describe it to us.
So week 3, I think it was reading the Bible or something along those lines. If it wasn't week 3, it was week 4. And obviously with my education, as I've spoke about my primary school, as you can tell by my teens when I was speaking, I got through to school at the end of third year, start of fourth year. So my education was non-existent. Also my attention, I had the attention span of a fish. I literally had the very, very, unless I was really, really into it, it did not hold my attention. So week 3 was about reading the Bible, and it was like, how do you read the Bible? Like how do you read the Bible? So I went, well, I waste about 2 hours in the morning because I just show I get up at 3, half 3 in the morning. So I do just to start my day and do absolutely nothing. So it was Monday morning. I read my Bible, and I think I was hungover. I think I'd been out or something on the Saturday or something. And because I was feeling really down, I was feeling really low, and after reading I just put my hands out, both hands out like this, and I says, Jesus, please come into my life. I need you in my life. I says, please, please, please come in. And with an instant, I mean, within a millisecond, and it wasn't even a millisecond, it was just instant. It was just like, boom, I have always been there, but didn't say those words, but took me to pictures. And at the time, I didn't know it was a picture. I'm getting goosebumps now thinking about it. It was goosebumps from head to toe. It was your stomach turning inside out. It was like a bang, but there was no noise. And he took me to two pictures of passing and qualifying my level two fitness instructor and level three personal training. And in that instant, he said I'd always been there, you know. But he didn't say those words. It was all feeling and through picture. I've always been there, you know. And then like from that moment on, my life has completely changed. From I will actually say from that moment on, that man that was fueled by hate, that toxic, borderline alcoholic, died.
I mean, that's powerful, Mike. That's powerful. And that's, like you said, up until that moment, it had been incremental, but at that time, it was almost like a knife came, the surgical knife came down
Yes.
and changed. So Mike, just just looking at the back at the last sort of few months, 6 months to a year, just as we're starting to come into land, just explain to me and to listeners what you've kind of started to see in the community, because me and you were put in touch through my brother who
Yeah.
has done a lot of prison ministry and prison pastor work, but just explain to listeners what you've started to see.
Well, what I've started to see, it's really love. You know, it's literally the word love, love everybody, and it's not only love everybody; it's show everybody Jesus. Everybody needs to see Jesus. And this is exactly why he wants to use me and to tell everybody about him. So like I said, when that guy that was literally fueled by hatred fueled me. If I wasn't in pain, I was depressed. Do you know what I mean? If I wasn't physically in pain, I was depressed. So whether that was being hungover or on a come down or in pain from training, I was always in some sort of element of pain, if not all of it. Um, that guy that was fueled and wanted, basically his addiction was pain. Died. He died, because that want, that desire, that emptiness, that chasing everything else other than following in the Lord's footsteps. Do you know what I mean? And
I
it
do,
shows you,
yeah.
yeah, it shows you as well because the past 39 years of my life without Christ has been a disaster without having somebody to follow. You know, it's been a disaster. I actually explain it as a car crash because it was shown to me in prayer as I look behind myself of the previous 39 years. It is literally, there's a trail of devastation in my wake. So there is. And that was because I was selfish, I was arrogant, I was on drugs, I was drinking, I was taking steroids. And on top of all that, I thought I was a good person. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
Mike,
was a good
totally.
person. Do you know
Yeah.
why I was a good person? Does that sound like a good person? Doesn't, does it? But I thought I was a good person because I was nice to everybody.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So my walk with the Lord now, honestly, I just have this over about passion for Christ. All need to know Him. All need Him in their lives. There's no if buts or maybes about it.
Yeah.
Lost, broken, unsatisfied, yet you have everything you want. There's something missing. It's him. He is missing.
So, Mike, just give listeners and indeed me an idea of who has really come into your path, because I think you've seen some fantastic and just really people you wouldn't think of actually just come full circle, come 180 and come to faith. Could you give me an idea of who you've sort of spoken to and who indeed has started to come to faith?
Well, in my walk, and people that I've spoken to, and I've invited three men to Alpha that have accepted the Lord. There's a paramilitary leader in the estate that I had a conversation with, and he's accepted the Lord. So, the seed was definitely sown with him, and we had a very good conversation in his front garden about the weight of sin. And it also shows. So that's just four men, that have seen a reflection, and three that I know of, that have accepted the Lord, because they've seen whatever he's admitted through me, and
Absolutely, Mike. I mean, this is from a guy which, like you said, I mean, so you just admitted there, and just walked us through drug use, mental health, self-harm, suicide attempts, steroid use, sex, mental health sectioning, alcohol, tattoos. So just looking at your life now alone speaks volumes to what's happened in your heart and mind through,
that's it,
through coming to
you
faith.
know, and that's exactly why the Lord is using me the way that he is, because of how I look. And I didn't realize at the time, because to be fair, this past year, well, not the whole year, I've done nothing but argue with him. Why me? Why do you want to use me? And it was purely because of my lack of education in his word, even in understanding of the Christian faith, because there's been no religion in my life whatsoever. Do you know what I mean? Prior, and I mean, when I say religion, I mean like knowledge. My parents weren't religious. I knew nothing of the Bible. I never attended Sunday school. I never went to BB. Obviously, as you know by my schooling, RE was over my head. If they let me in, do you know what I mean? Because even my high school years, if I wasn't suspended, I was on the beak. If I wasn't on the beak, I was out of class. So 3 years that I attended high school, it was probably rounded up to like 2 months.
Yeah,
Do you,
no, Mike,
do you know what I
totally,
mean?
totally, totally, totally. And I think that's the beautiful thing, isn't it? That actually, there is no one beyond there's no one beyond the pale. And like you heard it, like subconsciously, whilst you were texting on your phone at the back of the
Yeah,
church at that time, but
exactly.
even that went in and resounded with you,
Yeah.
which is fantastic, really. And to see your passion as well, and to see, like you said, actions speak louder than words, and just to see your complete 180 is powerful, to the point where my brother was saying to me, Owen, you have to interview this guy. He is an absolute legend. And so, just as we come into sort of final thoughts, Mike, and take home messages, could you maybe just speak to that very point about, if anyone else feels as hopeless as you did, or as indeed as lost as you did, or just substituting whatever for just using pain in different ways, could you maybe speak to your testimony as to reach out to them?
Well, and here's a prime example from asking the Lord into my life. I don't drink. I don't take steroids. And this past year, I've took drugs once, and that was because I was overconfident. I put myself in this situation where I actually went and I says, I'm going to go and tell everybody about Jesus. And I failed. So I did. But, like as I was saying there, I mean, the guys, no matter what way you're feeling, there's nothing that is going to compare like your drug head, and I'll tell you this, and if anybody's listening that took drugs, when have you ever got up the next day, 2 days, 3 days later from taking drugs and went, that was a great night? Never, never, because you're busted. Internally, your head's gone. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
what we need is Jesus. That's all we need. All we need in our lives is Jesus. And you and him work out the rest and following him. It's very, very simple. Once you start following in him, he will reflect and he will show you exactly where you're going wrong. And that is because, like I said, I thought I was a good person. I thought I didn't meet Jesus. Do you know why? Because I was nice to people out in the street. But what I didn't realize, so let's say there's 10 things, being nice to people in the streets, one, I was doing all the other 9 things were all in the wrong direction and all took me away further and further and further away from Jesus. And yet the second I asked him to come into my life and truly meant it, he was there for me in an instant and told me and showed me that he's always been there. So there's no drugs that are going to fulfill your heart. There's no the amount of money that's going to fulfill your heart. There's no cars that's going to fill your heart. There's no stuff that's going to fill your heart. Jesus will fill your heart and he will guide you. If you all you do is open your heart and ask him to come in and
Yeah.
follow in him. It's that simple.
Yeah, Mike, listen, that's profound. That's profound. And you're a living walking testimony, Mike, to that statement. And your life shows how you've just had this 180, complete 180 turn, and which is powerful in and of
Yeah,
itself
well,
and speaks.
it even shows you, even through, like, I know, obviously, from an educational standpoint, my passion for learning of the Lord's living word only equals my passion for telling people about him. Do you know what I mean? Like, I read every day, I pray every day. I'm going to Bible study days, here, there, and everywhere. And of course, I'm 5 weeks out from finishing my evangelism course with your brother.
Yeah, it's fantastic. That's amazing. Yeah, listen,
And
Mike,
now I'm toying with the idea of going to Bible college
it's powerful.
in
Mike, it's
September.
powerful. It's powerful, and
And
actually, like you said, what it does is it reaches just your testimony alone reaches out to people that feel like they are beyond the pale, but they've gone too far. They're beyond redemption, or indeed beyond, help, or if people just seeing the way you've turned it around and actually just affected change for the better in your own life and other people's lives is a massive testimony, Mike, and just shows just that if you can do it, anyone can do it, which is super powerful, super
mhm.
powerful.
but
So
but
listen,
I didn't do it alone.
you did, yeah, exactly,
I didn't
exactly. It
do it
was by
alone.
God's grace, by God's
Yeah,
grace,
that's exactly it. Because,
by
like I
God's
said,
grace.
the previous 39 years, that trail of devastation, that was me on my own.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah,
that was me at the helm.
yeah.
Now the Lord's at the helm, and I follow in Him.
Yeah, powerful, Mike, powerful. Listen, what we'll do is in the show notes, we'll put just links to the church that you're involved with and some of the work you're involved with, which is also powerful. And yeah, and if anyone wants to reach out to you, they can reach out to you through that link. But I just want to say thank you for being just so inspiring, but also just a living testimony. Because even when the more I've dug into listening to because I've done a bit of research on you, watched a few different interviews, and I actually always come away just feeling just like really encouraged. So it's been powerful just to almost be vicariously part of that journey in the background, Mike. So thank you.
Thank you.